Hello, my name is Jenna Goddard and I'm the Writing Center Coordinator at Thompson Rivers University, where I also teach student success courses. Today, I'm going to chat about effective test-taking strategies for students and how to manage your test anxiety. I'd first like to acknowledge that Thompson Rivers University is located on the traditional lands of the Tk'emlúps te Secwépemc within Secwepemcúlecw. And I also like to start with a little self-introduction. So again, my name is Jenna Goddard. I've been teaching at Thompson Rivers University for about 12 years, born and raised in Kamloops, and I love anything to do with the outdoors, particularly mountain biking and mountaineering. So today, I'll start off by introducing some of the academic supports for test taking and dealing with that test taking anxiety. I'll touch on the most common types of tests that you'll see at university, and then I'll break it down into 3 steps. What to do before the test, so in preparation, what to do during the test, and then what to do after the test to ensure your other tests are also great. I'll touch on managing test anxiety, and then some tips for taking multiple choice tests. You can book an appointment with a counselor because they also provide academic counseling. If you haven't heard of peer academic coaches, I'll talk a little bit more about them on the next slide. You can connect with Early Alert to get some strategies for test taking and supporting your test taking anxiety. You can take Student Success 1030, which is my course. You can be connected with accessibility services if you have a documented anxiety disorder. And you can get connected with supplemental learning. Peer academic coaches are supplemental learning leaders who can meet one-on-one with students. Students often come to university and feel a little bit lost or unsure when it comes to things like, how do I take a test? Or how do I take notes? Or how do I manage my really busy schedule? So you can meet one-on-one with another student who has probably encountered the same things and have some great strategies for you for things like effective study strategies or, giving a presentation. If this sounds interesting to you, please reach out to the TRE Writing Center and we'll be able to connect you with a peer academic coach. I'm not sure that I have ever met a student who actually loves taking tests. I have definitely met students who are good at taking tests and don't mind it, but I'm pretty sure there's nobody out there who's like, yep, sign me up, I want to do this every day. I think more often than not, students feel at least a little bit of anxiety. So unfortunately, you don't see a lot of true-false tests at university, but what you will see are a lot of multiple choice tests, which I'll get into a little bit later, open book tests, short answer, and essay questions. When it comes to open book tests, often students are kind of pumped and they, for some reason, think that this means I don't have to study, but you do. With open book tests, the expectations are much higher, so you still have to be really familiar with the content, and you also have to organize all of your notes and all of your textbooks ahead of time so that you can refer to them easily during the test. Short answer questions are also challenging because you need to be really concise and really specific with the important information. Essay questions are also tough because often students have the pressure of time on them, and typically we recommend that writing is a process, but you don't have that kind of time during an exam. I always recommend that students start with an outline. Take a few minutes to write down the major and minor points that you'll hit in your essay. Often when you run out of time, your teacher can look at your outline and see the logical progression of your ideas, and they might actually give you a few extra marks because they see your outline and where you wanted to go, but understand that you ran out of time. So what can you do to best prepare for the test, besides study? You should find out as much information as you can from your instructor. For example, how long do I have for the test? Or can I bring in some notes? Or can I have, a piece of paper to write notes during the test? Or what kind of test is it? Or is it cumulative? Or is it on a specific chapter? So find out as much information ahead of time. This will help you study and also get a sense of what the test will look like. I always encourage students to arrive about 15 minutes before the test time. If you arrive too early, You might get a little bit stressed out because you start to see your classmates come in and you start to talk about what you studied, and then you might think, oh my gosh, did I study that? So again, leave yourself enough time so that you're not rushing to get to the test, but don't arrive too early because you'll only elevate your own stress levels. When it comes to where you should sit, if you are taking the test in the same classroom in which you learned the material, try to sit in the same seat that you usually sit. There's lots of research that has gone into looking at recreating the environment in which you learned material. It helps you recall it during the test. So try to sit in the same spot, and if you can't, or if you're in a different room than the classroom in which you learn the material, try to sit near a window so that during the test you can give yourself a little brain break, look out the window, but the instructor won't see your eyes wandering to other people, or sit near a clock, because again, that will give you a really good sense of how much time is left during the test. When you get the test, always look over the entire test first. Don't start immediately answering questions. So scan the whole test. This will actually start your brain thinking about some of the upcoming questions. So it's a really great strategy. It will also prevent you from being surprised by anything. So for example, you get through the entire test, you'll flip over to the last page thinking you're almost finished and it's an essay question. So make sure that you're not surprised by that kind of negative information. Always answer the shortest and easiest questions first. Again, I sometimes have students who say, oh, I like to tackle the really difficult ones first, but really try to answer the shortest and easiest ones because it will build your confidence and that really will help you on the rest of the test. You'll also make sure that you're getting as many marks as possible in case you run out of time and don't get a chance to finish the test. Finally, be able to move on. You're not going to know everything, and that's okay. Sometimes you'll be going through other questions and then your memory will just, kick in and you will remember something and you can always go back and answer it. But also if you get hung up on one question, that also elevates your stress level. So if you don't know it, put a little star by it. Maybe you can go back to it later. Typically, students don't really want to think about the test after it happens, but it's important to know the answers to the questions that you missed because often midterms and finals are cumulative, so you really want to make sure that you're able to get the marks for those questions on a later test. It's also important to do a little self-assessment, so right after the test, check in with yourself. How did you feel? Were you stressed out? Did you feel calm and confident? How effective was your review? Were there big gaps in your knowledge, or did you feel like you hit almost everything on the test? So this kind of self-check-in will really help you prepare for the next test. And when you get that test back, always check your marks because sometimes instructors might make a mistake and you can maybe get a couple extra marks. Look at the kind of material that was tested because instructors often test on the same kind of material, so you can get a sense of what might appear on a later test. Also, look at the types of questions. Is it primarily multiple choice? Does the instructor prefer short answer or essay questions? Because again, you'll start to see a pattern in the kinds of tests that the instructor gives. There are several ways that you can reduce your anxiety before the test. I always encourage students to approach with confidence, and this means you're going to visualize being really successful on this test and feeling confident when you finish. Stop negative self-talk in its tracks and replace it with positive self-talk. And you can do this during the test in your head as well. Practice taking tests. If you watch my video on effective study strategies, practice tests are a really effective way of studying and you get better at it. And then access those supports that are there for you, for example, counseling or peer academic coaches. Be prepared. Create to-do lists to make sure that you are reviewing all the necessary material. And also schedule review time. If you check out my video on effective study strategies, you'll find that spaced practice is a really great way to study. So no more of those cram sessions or those marathon study sessions. Have several shorter study sessions in the weeks before a test, and you'll find that you'll do a lot better. Again, allow yourself plenty of time. You want to be feeling calm and rested and not rushed and not stressed out when you are coming into a test. Calm and sharpen your mind by getting exercise, by getting a good sleep and not cramming the night before, and make sure that you eat something before the test. During the test, you might also experience some anxiety, so you can always engage in some relaxation techniques like taking slow, deep breaths. Visualization, I can't emphasize enough. It's so important to really encourage that kind of confidence building or positive self-talk and break it down into steps. Think about the next step to stay on task and just, I finished this one question, on to the next. If you're focusing just on that and not the fear, you'll have a little bit of an easier time. Also, focus on what you do know rather than what you don't know. That will again build your confidence. Reinforce what you've done well on the test. So maybe you felt really great answering a certain question. Congratulate yourself, in your head, so you're not interrupting other people. Expect some anxiety. Again, not many people love taking tests. So what does it do? It tells you that you care about doing a good job. After the test, make a note of what strategies you used and which ones worked. Maybe you really liked the positive self-talk, or maybe the slow, deep breaths were useful for you. I read a great article about how stress and test anxiety impact you as a student. And I found it really interesting that anxiety hurts students' grades more than drinking and more than a lack of sleep, because stress inhibits your access to stored memories. And that makes it really challenging to remember test answers, even if you have studied. So be really careful not to overcommit to extracurricular activities. And I know that's tough as a student because being a student is so much more than being in the classroom. But make sure that you have a schedule for yourself and that you're not overcommitting. And I can't stress exercise enough as well. Take a break from your studying, take a break from the classroom, go for a walk around campus or around your neighborhood. That really helps your brain. You will definitely encounter multiple choice tests at university, so I'm going to talk about a few strategies for taking them. Really important to first read the entire question carefully. Some students just rush in, they think they know what the question is asking, they put down the answer. Don't do that. Make sure that you're reading it carefully because some multiple choice tests try and trick you. After you read the question, cover up the answers and try to think about the answer in your head. Then uncover the answers and see if one of them matches what you previously thought about. Because sometimes you'll read through the possible answers and then you'll second guess yourself, and that's never a good idea. Go through the process of elimination and eliminate the answers that you know to be incorrect. And then pick the best answer, because sometimes there will be two answers and you think, it could be either of them. They both sound pretty good. One of them is probably going to be better. Pay attention to the language in the multiple choice question. Pay attention to words like not, or sometimes, or always, or never. These are qualifiers, and you want to really make sure that you're understanding what the question is asking. Also be careful with phrases like all of the above and none of the above. Again, read really carefully so you have a full understanding of what the question is asking. When there are two answers that are correct in a multiple choice question with an all of the above option, probably it's all of the above. Multiple choice tests are designed to include the most common wrong answer that seems logical. So again, can't stress this enough. If you actually study and know your stuff, you will be more successful. However, if you don't know your stuff, here are a couple tips for you. In most cases with multiple choice tests, a positive option is probably true if there's also a negative one. A little fun fact for you. More often than not, the correct answer contains more information. So read the answers carefully. Perhaps if there's one that has a little bit more specific information, that might be your best bet. Take a look at these pictures. These are all things that came about because of mistakes or because of accidents. So you may fail a test as a student. I don't want to say it's okay because it feels pretty overwhelming and pretty disheartening when it happens. But in the course of a lifetime, it probably won't matter. And if you care about it, That's a good thing. That means that you are committed to quality. And what you can do is learn from it. Use it as that learning opportunity and figure out how to study better for the next test. I always like to end these presentations with a quote, and I like this one in particular. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. And that goes back to the last slide. Again, don't get too disheartened if you failed a test. I gotta break it to you, most people do in university. But again, use it as that opportunity to learn how to become a better test taker. Thanks so much for watching. Feel free to check out my other videos on writing and studying.